had an affair with a married man several years ago, and we ended up having a son together. Despite ending the relationship, I've raised our child alone, without his involvement or financial support. However, his wife has recently reached out to me. She discovered the affair and now wants to discuss our son. Her intentions aren't clear, whether she's seeking a relationship, custody, or something else entirely. I'm conflicted and unsure how to navigate this unexpected situation, torn between my past and the future of my child. I had an affair with a married man, and now his wife is contacting me about our son. Gather around for the story of how I, a 26-year-old woman with seemingly no common sense, managed to completely screw up my life. I'm fresh out of college, and I think I've figured out the world. I met this guy, correct? He's 42, successful, charming, and appears to have just walked out of a GQ photo shoot. Come on, what could go wrong? We hit it off right away. The chemistry was off the charts, and before I knew it, we were hooking up like teenagers with hormonal issues. I know what you are thinking. Did you even bother asking if he was single? I did, sort of. I stalked his social media, as any self-respecting millennial would, and guess what? There's no wife in sight. Sure, there were kids in his photos, but single dads do exist, right? Plus, he never mentioned having a wife, so I was in the clear. Fast forward about a month, and boom, plot twist. It turns out that Mr. Perfect is really Mr. Married with a side of lies. When I confronted him about it, he responded with the classic, "It's just a marriage on paper." We lead separate lives. We're only staying together for the children and the business. Do you know what I did? I believe him. I know. I can practically hear you all face palming through the screen, but I don't have a defense. I was an idiot. So, against all logic and reason, I chose to continue the affair. I believed my life required more drama than a Shakespeare play. We dated for about a year, and let me tell you, it was filled with fancy restaurants, incredible sex, and more red flags than a communist parade. I was head over heels. I think I was more in love with the idea of him, the excitement, the forbidden fruit element of it all. He made me feel special and desired, as if I were the only woman in the world. Well, except for his wife. But who is counting, right? During this relationship, I changed into a different person, inside and outside. I suddenly became the girl who had no common sense when it came to my lover. So, guess what? That included birth control. Despite being usually cautious, I began to take risks. Stupid risk. It's as if my brain decided to go on vacation and left a horny teenager in charge. So, surprise, I became pregnant. And let me tell you, finding out you're pregnant with your married lover's child isn't an exciting experience. When I discovered I was pregnant, I was terrified. But a small part of me was excited. I know I'm shocked as well. I guess some part of my delusional brain thought this would cause him to leave his wife, and we'd ride off into the sunset together. Of course, that wasn't how it went when I told him about my pregnancy. His reaction was roughly as warm and fuzzy as a cactus in winter. He immediately went into panic mode, telling me how I needed to take care of it, which didn't mean start taking prenatal vitamins. He offered to pay for the abortion and even suggested making a weekend out of it because nothing says romance like an abortion getaway, right? He even offered to buy me something special later. I'm not sure what's more disturbing. The fact that he thought he could bribe me into an abortion with a shiny trinket, or the fact that, for a brief moment, I considered his reasoning. He didn't want any more children, and he couldn't openly be a father to another child while he and his wife were still playing happy family for the world. I mean, heaven forbid he accepts responsibility for his actions, right? I know, what did I expect? But hearing him speak about our potential child as if it were an inconvenience to be dealt with, it broke something in me. It was as if a bucket of ice water had woken me up from my dream. Initially, I agreed to his plan. We arranged for him to pick me up and drive me to a clinic in another town. But the night before, as I was packing my bag, reality struck me like a freight train. What was I doing? Was I really going to let this man, who had lied to me from the beginning, make this huge decision for me? Was I going to let him pressure me into doing something I wasn't sure I wanted? Hell no. In a moment of clarity, I took my packed bag and checked into a hotel. I texted him, promising never to contact him again, never to name him as the father, and never to request child support. If he would just leave me alone. Initially, he attempted to sweet-talk me. When that failed, he quickly resorted to threats and insults. It was like witnessing Dr. Jekyll transform into Mr. Hyde. Except both personalities were assholes. Now fast forward to today. I have a gorgeous 2-year-old son. Is it easy being a single mother? Hell no. But you know what? We are making it work. My child is happy, healthy, and the light of my life. And I haven't heard anything from Mr. Married and Manipulative since that night, until now. Yesterday, his wife sent me a message on social media. Yeah, you read that correctly. His wife. The woman I spent a year pretending didn't exist is now DMing me like we were old college friends. So what does she want, you're asking? Oh, not much. She simply wants her children to meet their half-sibling. You know, the child born from her husband's year-long affair, according to her message. She and Mr. Wonderful divorced 6 months ago. She claims to want her children to know their sibling, and I want my son to know his half-siblings. I'm sitting here, staring at this message, wondering what new hell I've stumbled upon. I can't help but wonder how I would react if the roles were reversed. If my husband had cheated and fathered a child, would I contact the other woman? Hell no. I'd be more likely to show up at her door with a baseball bat and a lot of bottled-up rage. So what's the deal with this woman? I understand that I am not exactly the victim here. I made my bed, and now I am lying in it. But my son is innocent in all of this, and I want to do the right thing for him, even if it means facing the mess I created head-on. So, oh, wise ones, I have read it. What is your verdict? And before you all start giving lectures about not sleeping with married men, trust me, I've learned my lesson. In fact, I have sworn off men completely. At this point, I am seriously considering becoming a nun. Do they accept single mothers who have a history of making poor decisions? Too long. Did not read. Had an affair with a married man. Got pregnant and kept the baby. His wife has now contacted us, expressing an interest in meeting our children. Assist with editing. Thank you for all of the awards, but I'm not sure I'm an idiot. Who Slept with a Married Man is truly award-worthy content that addresses some common questions and comments. Yes, I realize I'm an idiot. You don't need to keep reminding me that I am well aware of my stupidity. 2. No, I do not want to contact him again. That ship sailed, sank, and is now resting at the bottom of the ocean. 3. Yes, I have considered therapy. After hearing all of this, I'm pretty sure my therapist will need therapy. 4. To the person who suggested that I create a YouTube channel about my life, absolutely not. The world isn't prepared for that level of chaos. I'm reading through all of your comments and will try to respond to a few. Thank you for your advice, tough love, and occasional laughs. I needed it. Update 1. Hello, I'm here. I'm still making questionable life choices and apparently not learning my lesson. Thank you for your feedback on my last post. To all of you who called me an idiot, you are not wrong. Thank you to everyone who gave us actual advice. I promise I read everything, even if I did not follow it. So, against the advice of 99% of you, I decided to respond to the wife's message. I know, I can hear you all facepalming, but in my defense, well, no, I don't have one. Curiosity killed the cat, and it appears that it is also trying to kill me. I agreed to have a video call with her. I thought it was safer than meeting in person. At least this way, if she decides to go all Fatal Attraction on me, there would be a screen separating us. The day of the call arrived, and I was a nervous wreck when her face appeared on my screen. I was half expecting to see flames and hear evil laughter in the background. Instead, I noticed a woman who appeared tired. Normal. Definitely not the fire-breathing dragon I had envisioned. I began with an apology. It seemed like the right thing to do, given that I'd spent a year playing hide-and-seek with her husband. To my surprise, she did not immediately curse me or reach through the screen to strangle me. Instead, she thanked me for agreeing to talk, and then she told me something that made my affair seem like a minor plot point. It turns out I wasn't special. My married lover boy. He was a serial cheater. I was only one in a long line of events. Apparently, this man had been busier than a one-armed wallpaper hanger. She had previously been aware of some of his indiscretions, but learning about me and my son was the final nail in the coffin. She informed me that they had divorced 6 months ago. And let us not forget the elephant in the room. Legal implications. if my ex-lover decides he wants to be daddy dearest. So, what does that mean? Do I need a lawyer? To those of you who said don't respond to my last post, I owe you a drink for too long. Did not read. The video is called The Wife. It turns out I wasn't special. Just one of many happenings. Ex-lover suffered an accident. Now he wants to play happy families. I smell a rat. But that could just be my common sense. Finally making an appearance. Edit. Wow, this has blown up again. Thank you for all of the awards, though I'm not sure. The continuing saga of bad decisions is worthy of an award because it addresses some common points. Yes, I know I should hire a lawyer. I am looking into it. It turns out I slept with a married man, and now his ex-wife wants to play the Brady Bunch. This is not a well-known legal specialty. I haven't heard directly from the ex-partner yet. I half expect him to parachute onto my balcony at this point. 3? Yes, I am considering a paternity test. I'm also thinking about getting a DNA test to see if bad decisions are genetically hardwired into my system. Thank you for all your advice, tough love, and occasional laughs. I'll keep you updated if anything else happens. Knowing my luck, it will most likely update too. Greetings, dear drama enablers. I'm your favorite walking disaster, returning with another thrilling installment. It's been a few months since my last update, and the rotating air circulation device has been heavily impacted by manure. Remember how I said I had a bad feeling about the whole situation while patting myself on the back? My intuition appears to be the only part of me that isn't completely useless. A few weeks after my last update, I received a love letter, which I define as a handwritten note from my ex-lover that could have easily been written in neon lights, spelling out, "I'm up to no good in this literary masterpiece." He expressed a strong desire to get to know our son. You know, the same son he rejected 2 years ago. He wants to be daddy dearest, but he also wants to provide financial support for our child. It was very generous of him to offer to do the bare minimum required by law. He asked that I sign a paternity affidavit. Nothing major, just a legally binding document that grants him parental rights. Call me crazy, but I decided not to take advantage of this fantastic opportunity and risk losing custody of my child. I may be a complete idiot when it comes to matters of the heart, but even I know when to call in the big guns. So I contacted a lawyer. It turns out that when you tell a lawyer that you had an affair with a married man, had his child, and now he wants custody, they perked right up. From that point forward, all communication went through my lawyer. I felt like an actual adult. Mr. Wonderful decided to pay me a surprise visit, using phrases such as my legal counsel and pending litigation. And by surprise, I mean I nearly had a heart attack when I opened the door and saw him standing there, looking like he stepped out of a midlife crisis magazine. He began spewing nonsense about how this was his son, how he had a right to be involved, and how he didn't need lawyers mucking things up. He asked why we couldn't just talk it out ourselves. Thankfully, the rational part of my brain regained control over my hormones. I was happy to see him. I told him he was making me uncomfortable and that showing up unannounced was unacceptable. I didn't invite him in, offer him tea, or even inquire about his completely real and unrelated accident. He tried to persuade me that he wasn't attempting to take our son away from me. Oh no, he simply wants to be involved in his life and provide for him, as he should have been all along. He even had the audacity to say that I was being unreasonable by involving lawyers. Apparently, I'm giving the courts too much power, and it would be preferable if we could resolve things amongst ourselves. It's just the two of us, making decisions about our child's future. Things quickly escalated following that brief visit. Before I knew it, I was looking at a court order requesting a paternity test. So now I can look forward to getting my child's cheek swabbed to prove that yes, half of his DNA comes from the walking midlife crisis that showed up on my doorstep. And do you want to know the most exciting part? This is only the beginning. Once paternity is established, the custody battle begins. I'm terrified, folks. I've spent the past 2 years being my son's entire world. We have routines, favorite games, and the prospect of having to share him. Sending him to spend time with a virtual stranger. It makes me feel physically ill. Let's not forget the practical aspects. He lives a few states away. He has more money than I could ever imagine. He has connections, resources, and a solid foundation in his community. What if a judge determines that he can provide a better life for our son? What if I end up becoming the every other weekend mom? I realize I'm overreacting, but who can blame me? This whole situation is like a bad Lifetime movie. Only I can't change the channel for the next 6 months. He has 4 supervised visits with me present per month, plus 2 video calls. And because he lives out of state, he has to travel here for his visits. Now I understand what you're thinking. That does not sound too bad. At least you'll be present for the visits. And you are correct. It could be worse. But let me tell you, the thought of sitting there and watching him play daddy to my son made me sick. It makes me want to learn how to breathe fire just to destroy the entire situation. After 6 months, we transitioned to unsupervised visits, still in my state, but without me. After a year, we will hold another mediation session to discuss the next steps. His intention was to have our son visit him at his home for brief overnight stays. He's already talking about having me join him for the first few visits, as if it's a done deal. We have a child support order, but it needs to go through the court system before it can be made official. In the meantime, he issued me a check, a very large check. Now, I won't lie. I did consider taking that check. I wanted to cash it and buy something nice for myself, but my lawyer brain said no. So I returned it via certified mail with a nice little note saying no thank you in the most polite legalese my lawyer could muster. You should have seen his reaction when he realized his money trick wasn't working. We had 2 meetings with him and our son, and let me tell you, it was about as relaxing as a cactus massage. My son was shy. And by shy, I mean he spent the majority of his time hiding behind my legs, occasionally peeking out like a groundhog looking for its shadow. When he did venture out, as soon as his father said anything, he scurried back behind me like a cockroach. When you turn on the lights, give credit where it is due. Mr. Wonderful appears to be patient. He hasn't expressed frustration with our son's reluctance to warm up to him, but I can see it in his eyes. Impatience, a desire to speed up the entire process. He even had the audacity to suggest that our son should get out more, perhaps attend daycare or preschool instead of spending so much time with me and my parents. The only thing that seemed to please him was how much our son resembles him. He kept pointing out the similarities, as if he was gathering evidence for his paternity case. Look, he has my nose. His eyes are exactly like mine. I wanted to point out that my son shares my ability to look completely unimpressed. But I held my tongue. And then, because the situation clearly required more complications, he decided to introduce himself to our son as father. Just like that. No build-up, no explanation. Just, "Hi, I'm your father." I almost choked on my own saliva. I've been trying to help my son, understand? You know how Grandpa is my daddy, and this man is your daddy. But how do you describe this situation to a 3-year-old? I'm trying to accept our new reality. But it's hard. It's confusing for my son. It is exhausting for me. It's also likely to provide plenty of material for the local gossip column. I'm just hoping that if he is truly committed to being a father, he will stick around. Because if he breaks my son's heart, I swear I'll learn dark magic and curse him with eternal hiccups. So, what comes next on this roller coaster of poor decisions and unanticipated consequences? Who knows? Maybe he'll admit he's a secret agent. Perhaps his ex-wife is actually his twin sister. At this point, nothing would surprise me for long. Did not read. My ex-lover and I both hired lawyers. He arrived unannounced. A paternity test was ordered. Mediation occurred. The visitation schedule has been set. My son is shy, and my ex-lover is impatient. And I'm one surprise away from changing my name and relocating to Antarctica. Update 3. If it isn't my favorite group of drama fans, it's been about a month since my last update, and in true fashion, my life has continued its downward spiral into absurdity. Mr. Wonderful has been constantly attempting to communicate outside of the court-approved parenting app. He has been talking nonstop about us coming to see him, take a trip to his neck of the woods and play happy families on his turf. I've turned that off. Of course not appropriate, I replied. Too soon. I insisted. But did it stop him? Of course not. This man is as persistent as a telemarketer on commission. He's already discussing changing our son's last name to his. I've also been shutting that down, but I'm starting to feel like I'm playing a game of whack-a-mole with this guy's insane ideas. Now, do you remember the shack you tried to give me? He didn't take the rejection well. He was upset, to say the least. I got an anonymous tip. Yeah, you read that correctly. At first, I assumed it was spam. Perhaps one of you lovely Redditors is having a laugh. The tip implied that the entire situation, including the accident, the change of heart, and the custody battle, was all part of an elaborate scheme, a con, or a long game. I know what you are thinking. Come on, drama mama, isn't that a little far-fetched? And yes, it sounds like the plot of a bad Lifetime movie, but remember who we're dealing with here. This is the man who had a year-long affair while playing Happy Families, the man who tried to entice me into having an abortion with a weekend getaway. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if he revealed himself to be 3 raccoons dressed in trench coats. I decided to do a little investigating. I was one tinfoil hat away from becoming a full-fledged conspiracy theorist. The more I dug, the more I discovered that the accident that supposedly changed his heart and inspired him to be Father of the Year was not documented. No police report, no hospital stay, nothing. Mr. Wonderful and his ex-wife are still married and together, and they appear to be very committed to making my life a living hell. I felt betrayed and slightly impressed. This level of deception requires dedication. But why? Why go through so much trouble? Why the elaborate ruse? It turned out that our beloved couple had hit a rough patch in their marriage. Who would have thought that a serial cheater could have marital issues? They'd been discussing divorce, but they do have a prenup, a prenuptial agreement that becomes null and void if the couple has another child. Are you connecting the dots? Because I certainly did. And let me tell you, the image it produced was uglier than a bulldog chewing a wasp. They could not have another child together, something regarding medical issues. I didn't get all of the details, but they knew about my son, and in their twisted minds, they reasoned that if they could gain custody of him, they could save their marriage and circumvent the prenup in one fell swoop. The whole thing, the accident, the change of heart, and the custody battle, it was all a ruse to get their hands on my child, the child they wanted nothing to do with. 2 years ago, I was prepared to go full mama bear and tear them both apart. But then I remembered, I am smarter than that. I am better than that. Most importantly, I have a kick-ass lawyer who is eager to get her teeth into something juicy. So I gathered all of my evidence, copied it, and then made backups of my backups. I practically laminated my laptop before marching into my lawyer's office and handing over everything. I swear I saw dollar signs in her eyes. We immediately requested an emergency hearing. And let me tell you, watching these two try to explain their way out of this mess was more entertaining than any courtroom drama I'd ever seen. The judge wasn't amused. In fact, I believe royally pissed off is a more accurate description. Their custody suit was quickly dismissed, and they are now facing charges of perjury and attempted fraud. My son and I are safe. The judge granted me full custody, and my ex will have to jump through more hoops than a circus lion to see our son again. My son is blissfully unaware of the drama unfolding around him. To him, life is normal. I'm also taking precautions to protect us in the future. I've moved, changed my phone number, and kept all of my social media accounts locked for far too long. Didn't realize my ex-lover and his wife were running an elaborate scam to gain custody of my son for financial reasons. Their plan was revealed. They are facing charges, and I have full custody. Life is weird, therapy is beneficial, and I will never date again. Edit to answer some common questions. Yes, I am safe. No, I won't tell you where I live now. Nice try. Ex-lover 2, did you not read any of this before asking if I was single? However, I am still very single. Thank you for joining me on this wild ride. I'm hoping my next post will be something boring. For example, I learned how to make sourdough bread but did not bake it. I accidentally married a prince and am now involved in international politics.